All right, welcome back to the Vikings Central podcast. I apologize for that, but you know, it's week 13. The Minnesota Vikings are facing off against the Seattle Seahawks, and we got a loaded show for you today. I have with me today Jason Harmon from the Before I Die podcast, and Jason has been on another show of mine, but Jason Harmon is from the Score North Before I Die pod, and he also does Vikings content for Sleeper NFL. Now, Jason, if you want to follow him on X, it's _Jason_777. But that's not all. I also have with me the Brohioan. So he's been on the show once, and it was after a win or with a win facing Detroit. So a different field than what we have today. But if you want to follow Josh and all the content that he puts out following the Vikings, go ahead and follow him on social media, the Brohioan, at the Brohioan on X. So I'm going to bring those two gentlemen on the stage and welcome both Josh, the Brohioan, and also Jason. How are you guys?
Good. Steve, you also left out that Josh and I are actually long lost biological brothers.
Yeah,
we usually both have the beard. We're both doing the stash for Movember coming to an end. We went to the Bengals game together after Josh almost died. So, a lot of backstory.
Yeah, I always say that I'm Jason's evil twin. So,
well, you guys have went to a Vikings game together now. So you guys got to meet each other in person and kind of hash out all the friends type questions that you guys want to do as far as I'm a Vikings fan, who's my favorite player, and so you guys have swapped contact information. So not the first time you guys have hung out together, and now maybe the first time you've ever been on a pod together.
Yeah. Did we go to a game, Josh? It feels like that was a hallucination in hindsight.
Yeah, that feels like a fever dream at this point. And I was 0-4 going to games before that. So having the big win against the Bears and then coming for the Bengals game, I was, riding high leaving Minneapolis that time, but I was totally unprepared for what the rest of the season would hold.
Now, I introduced you guys, and you're not the only guest today that we have. We also have another one with us that's going to be he had to record earlier with me, and that is Russell Baxter. So he covers the Seattle Seahawks for on SI, and he's also a writer for NFL Spin Zone. Now, he actually covers 4 different NFL teams, but one of them that he covers is, of course, the Seattle Seahawks. So he did have to meet with me earlier today. So I do have that recording towards the end of the show. So after both you, Josh, and you, Jason, once we cover a lot of the different topics, keys to the game, and things we want to talk about, everything Vikings, I'll have that recording for everyone else with Russ and I from earlier today. Now, with this matchup that we have, there's going to be a lot of questions. We have Max Brosmer. It's going to be his first NFL start. And for Max, I mean, he's got a lot of experience as a quarterback, at least in the college game, with 6 years between FCS and FBS. So he has a lot of dropbacks. And so the difference, I would say, and what most of you have probably heard is Max Brosmer, what we saw in training camp. And Jason, you were there in person. You got to see him, right? He's a more polished passer. He's not having to worry about mechanics with his footwork. He's able to focus on reading defenses and make quick reads and get the pass out rather than also the head game of trying to figure out where's my footwork at? Where's my hips? My shoulders and following through, which we kind of saw that last week, I feel, with JJ McCarthy, especially on this one awkward third down pass to TJ Hawkinson that I tweeted out that, you kind of saw him it looked forced. It didn't look natural. Yes, he completed the pass, but it looked like he was trying really hard to just make that completion and make a good mechanic type throw. And I think we don't have to worry about that with Max Brosmer. And I'm not saying that Max is going to be the savior, but I think he is. And the tweet today that I had was, I just think he's going to impress some people and open some eyes with the fact that we saw in training camp that he has the ability to make quick reads and get the ball out and be accurate.
Yeah. I think back to a quote Kevin O'Connell was talking about. I forgot what the interview was. I think it might have been Rich Eisen because it was about certain Michigan quarterback alumni. And I thought it would really apply to JJ McCarthy. And it was about Tom Brady. And we think about Tom Brady, but you watch a lot of his throws, you look at a lot of his stats. It's not overly jump off the page impressive. Like, you look at a lot of the guys now, like Josh Allen, stuff like that, who are throwing these crazy deep bombs all the time, 400, 380, whatever it is, yardage per game. But he said that the thing Tom Brady was elite at was making the routine throw routinely. And just taking what was there, it didn't have to be an exciting completion. So I hear that and I'm like, well, JJ McCarthy can do that. He may not have the greatest deep ball in the world coming out of the draft, but that's easy. Turns out I was wrong. But going back to camp, that's what we saw Brosmer do. If there was an opening, he found it. It didn't have to be, he had some deep passes in camp. But he also just took advantage of what the defense gave him. And I think that comes with experience. He's not the athlete McCarthy is. McCarthy obviously can have the ability to create on the run, things like that. I don't think Brosmer, we haven't really seen it. I didn't watch a ton of his Minnesota tape. I wasn't living here at the time, so I didn't get a ton of Gophers games. But I don't imagine he's the most mobile guy from what I've heard. So I think that just taking what is there, and to your point, having sound mechanics, good decision making, it might not be the most exciting thing, but if he could do that consistently, they could move the ball and get it to the playmakers.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into different keys of the game and stuff that I want to break down, and Josh, we'll have plenty of time to talk about Max Brosmer.
Right.
I do want to get into some of the sponsors that we have first and get those out of the way as well. We have great ones as far as that's Badass Wood Art. They also sponsor our post game show, Badass Player of the Game. Go check out all the different wood art. They always do giveaways weekly. So that's Badass Wood Art. You can use code VC15 and receive 15% off as well. And if you're going to any more Vikings games this year or any events or concerts, make sure that you get your tickets this season with SeatGeek and use our code Vikes Central, and you get $20 off any $50 or more purchase. So make sure you check out SeatGeek. And then, of course, up in the top corner, Homage is another sponsor of ours, another way that you can support us. Please go to homage.sjv.io/Vikings. And Homage, legendary comfort is on deck. And with that, we're going to go ahead and roll into our tail of the tape. So this week, with our tail of the tape that we have, it is a little bit lopsided. We're facing a Seahawks team that's definitely balanced. They're 8-3 coming into this thing. Now, per PFF, they're second-ranked team, second on offense, 6th on defense, and 3rd in special teams. And as you can see, we're not any of those, especially except on special teams. But again, these are PFF stats. But what you can see from this is that the Seahawks are a really balanced team on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the Vikings are going to have a tough task at hand. It's not impossible, but coming in with a rookie quarterback and knowing that you're facing a really tough defense in this one will be tough.
Yeah, Mike McDonald, dude, the coach for the Seahawks, he was with the Ravens when their defense was at its peak recently, man, and he's tough. All the Ravens fans I know hated to lose him and actually wish that he was kind of the coach over Harbaugh right now. They're kind of over Harbaugh, and they see what they have going on in Seattle is special. They're like, well, if they can do that with Sam, we should be able to do that with Lamar, man. But he's a great coach, and look at that. I mean, that's balance across the board. You love seeing that as a coach, man. They really don't have a weakness right now, man. They're on their ascend up while we're going the opposite direction right now. So we'll see how it goes. But tail of the tape does not look great.
It doesn't. But Jason, before you get into these different stats, check this out. With Sam Darnold, they rank 5th in passing offense and 1st in receiving. Now, he's 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions on the year. So he has turned over the ball. So taking a look at what Sam Darnold did last year, he's been good. He hasn't been last season great, but he's been good enough on a balanced team that is also playing really good defense for the Seahawks to play winning football.
Yeah, I mean, I think to start the season, he was doing even better than he was with the Vikings, and I think that Rams game definitely really threw him for a loop. That really,
4
really screwed up
interceptions.
his stretch for the year. But no, I mean, and I'm sure Josh and I'll get into it as we were talking pre-show. Two of the chief McCarthy apologists heading up till recently, but I wanted to move on from Sam, but I'm a USC fan. I love Sam. I love what he brings to the table as far as his arm talent. He's one of the best deep passers in the league. I am curious how Flo attacks that, knowing his weaknesses, because if you force Sam to focus on the short to intermediate game and make him look at his checkdowns and get to that point, that's where the pressure typically gets to him. So if you can force him into those types of decisions, I think the defense, I mean, obviously the Rams have him figured out. They had him figured out with the blitz last year. They haven't figured out with their DBs this year. But I think if anyone should be able to attack Sam, it should be Flores. And if he can't, then I'm very concerned about what he was doing for an entire year of practice against the guy, because the advantage should go to Flo in that situation. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of love and respect for Sam. I'm glad to see him doing well. I think tomorrow's going to be a big sign as far as, is this Vikings defense inconsistent or is it just bad? Because at best, I mean, thinking of the signings, 25th overall or 22nd overall in PFF is not acceptable. We have not gotten the sacks that we should have this year. And I know playing without a lead plays a factor, but we have not created turnovers like we should have, like we did last year. Those are things, regardless of score, the Vikings are not doing at the same tick that they were last year. So this is a huge game for the defense to get things back on track. And I do think that the defensive performance gets lost in the conversation of obviously the quarterback situation being the big one, as it should be, but the defense, especially with those additional signings, is not playing up to par for what they should be.
Absolutely. I mean, this team, and no matter what, people want to say, this team did make moves. Kwesi did make moves because we thought this team was going to be a contender this year. I just think it was a miscalculation on how far ahead they thought JJ McCarthy is and has been. And honestly, that being the case, I think a lot of us were hopeful. I would say all three of us being hopeful coming into the season that you want to see your team succeed. So, we didn't get that so far. I think that there's still hope that he will grow, and I think we still will see JJ McCarthy play some football yet this year and probably next year as well. But Max Brosmer has a chance to at least show, hey, I have something here too. And maybe he can change whatever that conversation may be in the offseason going into next year to where maybe it's not just JJ. Maybe there's still maybe there's more of a, hey, maybe they bring in a veteran, but hey, maybe there's an open competition where maybe Max is in the discussion. And that's the kind of chance I think he has on Sunday if he can show the tools, maybe that he's a lot farther ahead than maybe JJ McCarthy is.
Yeah, every time I turned on the Gophers last year, and I'm not gonna pretend I watch them all the time, but being a Vikings fan, I see them on sometimes, and I would turn them on. And every time I did, Brosmer, he stood out. Like it was like, okay, this guy has NFL tools. Like I was shocked he didn't he didn't get drafted, if I'm being honest, which great for us because he was able to choose where he went, and we reap the benefits, hopefully. I mean, he looked great in preseason. It's very hard for me at this point in the season to get my hopes up for anyone, but that's what we need in that in that position group. And obviously, I wanted JJ to be the guy and take off the ground running, but that hasn't happened, man. And it does look like that in hindsight, bringing in another bridge quarterback or trying to sign Sam for a shorter deal, more money was probably the move. But, you know, hindsight's 2020. I was behind, you know, getting rid of Sam at the time, like, because I thought that JJ would be more ready. You know, I mean, we got the weapons, we got the coach. He had a coach in college who was a pro, you know, quarterback, and it just hasn't worked out like I thought it would, man. But Brosmer, at this point, what do you got to lose to see what the kid has? The more competition in there, pushing JJ to be better. And from everything I've heard from people who actually follow the Gopher, Brosmer seems like a whiz kid when it comes to the X's and O's. Like, he could be a coach type of guy someday. So that's what you want in a backup quarterback. And, you know, just to see what he's got, man, at this point in the season, what do you got to lose?
Yeah, if I could add on to that, I mean, even at camp, because we had 4 quarterbacks at the time, you had McCarthy, Howell, Rippon, and then Brosmer. When they were rotating in, doing just 11 on 11 drills, if Brosmer wasn't on the field, he was standing behind, about 10 yards behind whatever quarterback was under center, and mimicking like them taking the snap or dropping back, whatever it was. He was doing his step backs, all those things, or drop backs. Wasn't doing basketball shots, but it was like impressive just to watch him take advantage of reps even when he wasn't getting reps. I think here's my bold prediction. I think if he goes up and lights it up tomorrow and they win, you're going to write it out. Because technically speaking, the Vikings are not out of the playoff race. If they lose and he looks like what he is, an undrafted rookie, we have to remember that, right? I want to see the kids succeed. I want my young quarterback of the future, whoever they are. But I would imagine they go back to McCarthy just to completely take off the whole 6 games factor that could leave questions on if they are moving on too quick, if they decide to, or if they're giving him more chances when they shouldn't. They're going to try to eliminate any questions if Brosmer doesn't absolutely go out and ball out. And I think that we would see McCarthy back. And if he struggles, then you would probably, to your point, Josh, see either a veteran brought in or an attempt to get a big name. And I think there might be some phone calls that could surprise some people. I don't think they go anywhere, but I bet they call around on a couple guys that haven't even really been labeled as options for the Vikings.
So that brings me, I mean, you brought it up a little bit early, but
look at that.
How about we talk about it? Now, if you have questions and you're following us on X or YouTube or Facebook, please make sure that you send any that maybe Josh or Jason or I can go ahead and answer about the Vikings Seahawks matchup. Or if we say anything that you want to comment on, please make sure that you put it in the chat. Definitely appreciate that. And we have Brett, who's the other host here at the Vikings Central. He says, "That's F and go, boys." He's not able to join tonight, but hot topic take: Brosmer or McCarthy in week 14. Now, I think this is a loaded question because obviously we want to, you got to give McCarthy games. You know, if you want to see growth, you got to give him games. And the fact of it is that Kwesi, we drafted, we went up even in the first round and went up another pick to go get him. So there is that's kind of riding on it. But at the same time, if Brosmer comes in and he plays good, I think that, and I want to say not average, but good to great. I think that does at least put that in the back of your mind. Do they do what they did with maybe what they did with Carson Wentz and let him keep playing and say, hey, we want to make sure JJ gets better, and they give him another game? I don't know. But what's your guys' take on this? Brosmer or McCarthy in week 14?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to tomorrow. I mean, but I guess I jumped the gun on a little. That's funny. But no, I think it really depends on Brosmer's performance. I think Kwesi, and you kind of hinted at it earlier, but I think it's important. Like, yes, the quarterback situation is 100% the biggest issue with the team, but this was not the win now roster we expected. The signings really were a gamble to get so many guys later in their careers with injury histories. And to this point, even the guys with, Allen and Hargrave, who've been mostly healthy, have largely been outshone by Levi Drake Rodriguez and Jalen Redmond, who have that young, explosive fight at the line mentality, trying to prove everything they can. But I think if things continue, there's really only 3 ways Kwesi could save his job. Either Brosmer goes out and looks like Brock Purdy times 100, or I think that you play McCarthy and figure out, oh, wait, he's getting better and there is really something to build on and he looks significantly better, which is what I think most people hope for with their top 10 pick. Or he starts talking to the Wilfs now and says, hey, I'm kicking the can. I've called Cincinnati. Joe Burrow can demand a trade and has a no trade clause. The Jets have way more to throw it at them, but he's going to say no. He wants to play with Jettas. I'm going to call about Herbert. All these names that have been kind of casually tossed around. Heck, Kyler Murray may even be the top option you could get, but he has to go to the Wilfs with, here's how I'm fixing this, and start thinking about that now, because that firing would come in end of January, beginning of February, most likely. So, or pardon me, maybe mid-January or mid-February, but he would have to figure those things out now. It's the only way I see Kwesi keeping his job after this year. So I think that tomorrow will have a huge implication on kind of what path he leans into to try to prove, hey, I either have our guy or I need to start thinking of solutions fast.
Josh?
Yeah, I mean, it does come down to tomorrow. If Brosmer wins in a hostile environment in his first start and looks decent to good doing it, I mean, JJ, I love the dude, man. I've defended him against guys. I've had our own fans attacking me for trying to prop him up and everything. He's the laughing stock of the league right now, and that's just
the memes, bro. The memes.
I mean,
We've all seen them, right?
The Taylor Swift one was just the nuke. It ended it.
It's a gold mine, and I prayed for comic relief with this team because I like to joke, I like to have some fun, and I'm like, this team, is kind of dry and boring. And when I prayed for that, I did not imagine it would go this way that it has gone, and I mean, it all came crashing down, and it all depends on tomorrow. If Brosmer looks good, JJ, I think, needs some time to sit. I think they would play him and try to throw him out there, but man, there's just nothing in the last 3 games that I've seen that makes me believe, yeah, this kid's ready. And that sucks because after he came back against the Bears, after the big win against the Lions, I'm like, you don't do that, especially against the Lions on the road, if you don't have it. Like, I was like, we got a guy, we'll have rookie pains, whatever, that's fine. But I did not foresee it being as bad as it has the last few weeks. In the Green Bay game, you could just tell, like, he's wound too tight right now. He's thinking too hard. And when you are thinking that hard at the quarterback position where you need to be so quick with all your reads and everything like that, it's just a recipe for disaster, man. I'm not totally out on JJ. I mean, Bo Nix, when he was JJ's age, was still pissing down his leg in the SEC. Joe Burrow was transferring to the LSU, you know what I mean? And he looked like ass his junior year, you know what I mean? All these dudes grow at a different pace, but it looks bad right now. And, I had some time on the bench. If Brosmer does light it up and JJ gets more time to sit, it's a bad look in a way because Brosmer's an undrafted rookie free agent, you know what I mean? But he's got that more experience in college. He's made more throws. And I even made the comment this week, maybe JJ needs like the Bryce Young treatment, like how he got in Carolina where they brought in Andy Dalton. Well, our Andy Dalton got sacrificed and killed against the Chargers. So we don't have that. All we have is this undrafted free agent guy. And, we can hope for the best with him. But at the end of the day, if he is good, it complicates things a little. But like Jason said, I want our young QB of the future. I don't give a shit who it is. I hope it's JJ.
I think all 3 of us are on that same page.
Right.
I mean, so those of you, I mean, if you want to come at, any of us, we want to see our team succeed. We're fans at the end of the day, just like you, where if JJ McCarthy is playing bad, we're probably saying some unsavory words at the TV, just like you are, and playing armchair quarterback. Ultimately, we want to see the right guy that's in that position, whether that's Max Brosmer, JJ McCarthy, or if it's somebody that's not currently on this squad. We want to see, just like your podcast, Jason, Before I Die, we want to see one. We want to see one, so whoever that guy is. But again, where I'm at, I'm going to support him. I'm going to support JJ, and hopefully, that at least, I want to support my team that I support. But I'm going to be critical fairly.
Yeah. And I want to, and I think that's kind of the main point. The one thing I'd say with Josh's point is I think if it was Wentz was still healthy, the Andy Dalton, Bryce Young thing makes sense. I don't think if JJ sits, and I think they're talking this over, right? Again, like that's why I'm saying, and people can disagree. I'm just saying what I think the front office and the coaching staff will do.
Sure.
You can't do that with two first-year starters, right? Because if the whole point is, well, our first-year starter needs to sit to get better, so we're going to play the better option, which is another first-year starter, then you're just going to stick with the second first-year starter. But that's why I think if McCarthy or if Brosmer doesn't do something significant tomorrow, they're going to go back to McCarthy, even though I think like there is a chance Brosmer goes out there tomorrow and looks better than McCarthy has. But the kind of the sunk cost fallacy and the cost analysis of it is, yeah, you kind of have to see what you have. And again, to the point of this overall roster isn't what we expected. There is something to be said in this situation of like how dire the roster is. That draft pick, especially in what is a very thin draft class, those top 5 picks, top 10 picks are going to be premium this year. I am not going to tank, but I'm sure the team is looking at it as a win-win in the sense of, hey, we're not making the playoffs. We either find out this guy really is it, because to Josh's point, like he's shown, that's why I'm frustrated. I'm not frustrated because JJ McCarthy is just totally terrible. I'm frustrated because it's been a lot of terrible and some moments of brilliance where I 100% saw everything I thought that I would see from him, but just nowhere near enough. And I think that they're going to say either we see that consistently, win, or we're not making the playoffs anyways. Let's have whatever flexibility and draft capital we need to fix either the roster or the quarterback position. And I think that that's why they would go back to him.
Absolutely. So, Josh, I have a quick question. Do you got something you want to tell Jason and I?
What's that?
Well, I'm just wondering what's going on here.
Oh, Annie Agar, man, she keeps
Oh, brother.
3 different times. She's throwing you
on
blast.
you, bro.
Yeah. I mean, she's flirting with me. I think it's pretty clear at this point. I wasn't sure after the first one, maybe 2, but 3. Come on now, we know what's going on.
I have to laugh when I'm just, I'm seeing videos, scroll through, whether it be on Facebook or whatever, and all of a sudden it pops up and I see you on there again.
Yeah. I've embraced the memes at this point. I'm someone I laugh to stop from crying type of things. You know what I mean? So I'm that kind of guy. So all of this is like, man, this is a season from hell, but some of it's been, I can't lie, some of it's kind of funny too. So like I've embraced the memes. It's at our expense. It sucks, but what can you do at that point? But yeah, man, she's able to dunk on us right now, man. And the Packers unfortunately look pretty good. So we'll be back, but this ain't over. But yeah, it's bad right now.
All right, so we're going to break these down individually, but I'm just going to quick summarize. And these are some of the keys to victory that I put together. And earlier in the day, I did go over with Russell Baxter, the Seahawks keys to victory as well, which will be shown here later in the show. But Vikings defense versus the Seahawks pass game. Hey, we got to stop that Sam Darnold to JSN connection. I think he had 167 yards last week and 2 touchdowns. He's been over 150, 160 yards at least a couple times this year. He's leading the league in receiving. Definitely got to stop him. Minnesota defensive front versus Seahawks running back duo of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. He's kind of their 1-2 punch, if you will. And you don't know which one's going to go off any which week. Vikings OL, the offensive line giving Max Brosmer time is going to be key, and Brosmer moving the chains, sustaining drives, something we've yearned for as Vikings fans, is seeing this offensive firepower that we have in our receiving core being put to good use and not constant 3 and outs or 3rd and longs and drive killer sacks being taken. So, and then finally winning the turnover battle and special teams field position, and whether that be not turning the ball over either at the quarterback position or special teams not turning the ball over. So those are the different keys of victory that we're going to take a look at, and let's just go ahead and fire up the first one. So number one, that Vikings defense versus that Seahawks pass game. Josh, I'm going to start with you. The Vikings defense, they got to get to Sam Darnold. We've seen what happens when Sam does got to. Flo knows this game, and it's going to be a chess match between Sam Darnold, who knows Flo's defense and got to go against it all year last year in practice. But on the same token, Flores knows some of those weaknesses of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and last year we got to see Sam go against one of his former teams in the Jets, and I wanted to think that Sam was going to come out and just spank him that game, and we thought he might, and he kind of had the yips. He wasn't his usual self. He was looking a little off that day, and I don't know if it was nerves playing a former team, being a little wound tight from that, but we need to hope that Sam shows up. We've seen he can be prone to the turnovers. He just had one of those games against the Rams, and they appear to have his number. Flo does know his tendencies, and he can be had sometimes. So we just gotta hope for the best there. I'm going to call for a Gink 6. It's been far too long, and he got a couple in practice against him. It's time enough. We need one if we're going to win this game.
Jason, what do you think about, again, this matchup? You're going to have, two sides that really know each other in Sam Darnold knowing the Vikings defense and the coaches, the Vikings coaches, whether that be KOC or Flo, knowing some of the things that Sam's good at and what he's not.
If I'm Brian Flores, I'm doing one thing, and I'm posting a picture like this of Sam Darnold in Ford Field last year, hanging his head in disgrace. And I'm showing that to my top pass rushers who played their tail off in that game, especially Van Ginkel. And I'm remembering who cost you that game, because it wasn't the defense. The final score doesn't tell the story, because the defense kept you in that game until they were bled dry of stamina. Remember when we could have had the 1 seed and hosted a playoff game? Remember that? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. The DBs aren't going to stop JSN. Like, they're not. I hope so. I think Murph probably is going to be your matchup. I like Isaiah Rodgers. His size isn't. Him on AJ Brown was a decision that and he got roasted for. I'm like, I don't know. I'm 5'7". I know when somebody's got a height advantage of me and I'm playing basketball or something, I avoid that situation, right? So if we put him on JSN, we're just screwed. It's just call it. It's probably over. Hope you have him in fantasy and can get a consolation. The defensive pass rush is going to have to destroy Sam Darnold's brain. And we've seen it happen. Like, Sam's got an incredible arm. I cannot say that enough. His processing power when things get chaotic is not the best. And that's why we moved on from him. So if I'm Flores, if I'm those guys who were on that team last year, I know what ultimately was his downfall. And I'm bringing that because once he gets that ball up into the air, especially to JSN, it's going to be a problem based off what we've seen for this Vikings defense so far this year. Any game, something could change. You could have just a miraculous performance by Murph or Akuda, whoever's out there, and that could be the case. I don't think it's likely, but I do think that the pass rush is going to be the start. Don't let him pass the ball. At the end of the day, don't let it leave his hand.
Now, this Seahawks offense, like I said, they'd lead the league in receiving. Now, they have Cooper Kupp, who was hurt for a few games, and then at the trade deadline, they also added Rashid Shaheed, who can definitely take the top off. So that's going to create even more room underneath for both of those other two receivers and JSN Cooper Kupp. I think the Vikings are definitely going to have their hands full with not only them, but going into what is our Viking key at number 2, which is, again, our defensive front versus that Seahawks running back duo of Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker.
Yeah. I think
go ahead, Jason.
No, you go.
Okay. We've been so weird, like we stopped Saquon, we stopped Derrick Henry, but like Manuel Wilson or whatever from Green Bay ran all over us. Kenneth Gainwell ran all over us, man. Like, I just don't know which run defense is going to show up, because this is a formidable duo. Like, their pass game is elite right now, but either one of these dudes is more than capable. Kenneth Walker really has some juice, and Charbonnet is just all reliable, man. They just bring him in at the goal line and out of the backfield. This is a tall task, man, and that's one reason the Seahawks are so good. They're balanced, and that's what I want to see out of our team. Like,
they're ranked third in rushing, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. The Bears showed that yesterday, in the game against Philly. You got to have a running game, man. Like, that's crucial. And, they got one, so hopefully we can stop them. It just depends which rush defense is going to show up. We got the horses, man. They just got to get the job done.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make a bold prediction because this person's shown up a lot. I mentioned him earlier, but I think that he'll be a key tomorrow is LDR. His first real NFL action, I remember last year, was in Seattle. We had a goal line situation and he stuffed the run, I think, twice in a row with Walker. Mm-hmm. And I think he's just a space eater. And he's just one of those guys who's kind of a psycho. He's probably not the most technically sound. He's probably not going to be an elite guy, but sometimes you just have to throw a dog in the middle and hope they get to the bone. And because like with Allen and Hargrave, it's just not consistent. And a lot of our run stopping success has been from the linebackers coming into the gap, things like that. I think, but we have to hold it down at the nose position. And I think that's where LDR, I think, has an opportunity. Hopefully he's utilized to maybe make some noise tomorrow. Because I just don't think our typical defense is going to do a great job. I think we can get home to Sam, kind of tying back to the first point. But again, this is a team that's really freaking good in both areas. If we get home to Sam, that's great. But if we can't stop the run, we're going to get cooked on the ground and lose time of possession all over the place.
Now this has been a team in the Seahawks that, again, they're ranked first in receiving, third in rushing. They're going to score points. Our defensive ranks that you saw from the tail of the tape is somewhat skewed because of the position that our offense with turnovers has put our defense in and leaving our defense on the field for extended periods of time. This defense is better than what the stats will show. But with that, our defense has been keeping us in games. If our defense can keep us in this game and limit maybe the touchdowns and make sure that there's a lot of Jason Myers field goals going on, the bigger question becomes Vikings key number 3 is, can the Vikings offensive line, who is missing Donovan Jackson, we still don't know if Christian Darrisaw is playing yet, can they give Max Brosmer enough time to be able to make plays?
Well, I mean, with these injuries, man, and even then I saw Alec Lewis posted some next gen stats earlier. And even when the 3 interior guys have been healthy, and I've even been like, hey, Donovan looks really good, the metrics really aren't that great as far as pressure rates compared to their peers. And again, that's another issue where, yes, quarterback is number one issue. We can all agree on that. But these things that were supposed to be fixed, and with Donovan, I'm going to give him a break because there have been moments he's been good. And he's also a first-year player in the NFL at one of the most physically demanding positions. But with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, like, those were your big, huge signings. And they came off this elite line in Indy. What is going on there? So I think it's going to be tough. I think the biggest thing they could do for Brosmer is really go all out to open up running lanes and help the running backs, because that's going to set up play action and cause the defense maybe to have to maybe play a little more run focused and not be as aggressive in the blitz, which I think should help Brosmer, especially with that injured line. Because is it for sure School is starting at left tackle, or is Darrisaw a game time decision?
Right now, I haven't seen that he's out, so I would say right now it's probably a game time decision.
If I have to watch School go out there in Seattle against the 12s and have 19 false starts, I might can the season. I might be done. I might Photoshop my own face onto the JJ McCarthy 9 meme at that point.
Yeah.
It might be time.
Might be tough to watch.
Yeah, the O-line, man, It's so disheartening because it's been a bugaboo of ours for so long, and we invest draft picks, we invest money, and it kind of like it seems a little better, but like we with the injuries and the mixing in and out, offensive line, is about continuity. We're trusting the guy next to you, all being on the same page to pick up these stunts and blitzes and everything, man. And when you don't have that, it's tough. And the amount of guys we've had shuffled in at different spots. If Darrisaw plays, I feel pretty good about it. Although he's clearly still, getting back, to his normal speed. Like he's not fully there, but even a 90, 80% Darrisaw is better than most left tackles in the league. Justin School, on the other hand, yikes. For Brosmer's first start, you do not want to see him, guarding the blind side. Brandel, I trust Blake Brandel. Blake Brandel has earned my trust. Plug him wherever on the offensive line.
Man's amazing.
Yeah, and you can't ask for a better depth piece on the offensive line than Blake Brandel. He's just steady, man. The fact he stepped in at center and did that, man, I just love that dude for that. So, he's earned my trust. I don't worry about him. But like you said, Fries and stuff, Fries was elite with the Colts, and the Colts have an elite offensive line again this year, and we're struggling with guys that they were elite with. So it's like, at what point is it maybe scheme or coaching that you worry about, man? Like, because it's kind of just been more of the same. I do think the offensive line is on the right track, but when it's as banged up like it has been this season, man, it's hard to trust them, especially in a hostile environment. I'm going to hope for the best and pray to God Christian Darrisaw plays. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge matchup because their D line is tough.
Now, Jason, I saw that you retweeted
There you go.
this
Yep.
from Alec Lewis. So having played 13 offensive line combinations, at least 10 snaps this season, Vikings lost, blah, blah, blah. We know that. But Darrisaw has allowed the lowest pressure rate of his career, 8.7, while Jackson and right guard Will Fries have let pressure reach the passer on 10% of their pass sets, both bottom three ranks at their positions. The most alarming one is the bottom one, saying that the Vikings have allowed the highest pressure rate in 3 of the past 4 seasons and have only ranked outside the bottom 2 twice since 2018. Now, one thing to notice on this is, we've had some offensive line issues, and we brought in a couple individuals through free agency this year. One thing to note on the Seahawks is their front 5 that they have drafted those individuals, both tackles that they have that are ranked very highly on PFF this year. Both their tackles were in the same draft class. One was the first round, the other the third round. We know Gray Zabel was drafted in the first round this year, and they drafted all of theirs within the last 3 years, and they're starting all through the draft.
Yeah. I mean, it would be that. Imagine that. That'd be super nice to do. Yeah, man. They're tough, dude. I mean, they've built a great team out there, dude. And our O line. And it's weird because I live in Cincinnati. I've seen the Bengals have a similar situations with their offensive line. They've drafted, they've thrown money at it, and it just hasn't worked. And Zach Taylor's from that McVay tree. And, I don't look at the Rams offensive line. They seem to be doing okay, but McVay might scheme the receivers open a little bit better or whatever. But it's something to look at, man. It's starting to wonder if scheme has something to do with the O-line play, asking them to do too much. They're thinking too much. I don't know, man, but I hope one day we can get to that level because I definitely expected more this year.
All right, so Vikings key number 4, Brosmer moving the change, sustaining drives. I think that, and again, this is all speculation. Someone commented today that, hey, you're just guessing. Of course we are. If I knew the future, I'd probably have some betting lines down in Iowa right now at casinos on sports betting. But Brosmer moving the chain, sustaining drives due to him not having to worry about his mechanics, possibly being more accurate in throwing the ball and having more experience throwing the ball in college. Yes, I think there is a chance that we have maybe some better accuracy that allows us to move the chains and sustain drives. And that's just where I am. And I think that's obviously important to us being able to keep up the Seahawks, at least scoring wise.
Yeah, I'd start with the run game. Do for Brosmer what you didn't really in a couple of McCarthy's first couple games, and you started to do like last week in Green Bay and beyond. Like I'm going to give credit where it's due. KOC definitely adjusted. I would imagine he kind of learns from that, and he tries to set up play action, rollouts, things like that. And then I would say, hey, it's going to be a big game for Justin Jefferson. I think it'll be a Jordan Addison game. He's due for one, and I know Jefferson's really, really due for one. But I just think they're going to sell against Jefferson. I think it's too obvious to have a first-time starter and the best receiver in football and just assume any pass he's going to throw is probably going to go there. I think it'll go to Addison most of the time, and then you'll see Naylor get involved. But I think it's going to start with the run game. Don't put Brosmer in a situation to fail. He's really strong mentally, and he's got his wits about him and that experience of having played so many games. But it's still a good idea just to lean on the two running backs you invested so heavily in this offseason by bringing back Jones and trading for Jordan Mason. Take advantage of the guys you went out and either re-signed or traded for and set this guy up for success. I think that'll be the key to him actually being able to move the chains and to keep drives going.
This is a question for both of you. Sticking to the run game, I agree. We can't get away from it. We've been successful this year when we stick to it, and then for some reason we get away from it. But in key situations, a question for both of you: does KOC open up the playbook for Brosmer?
I don't think so. Not in that environment. I think it's going to lean heavily on the run game. And I'm excited for that because the running back position, that's my favorite position on the offense, man. Robert Smith, Adrian Peterson. I miss having those.
Chester Taylor. Yeah, don't show disrespect to 29, baby.
I miss having those kind of guys in our backfield. And this year, Aaron Jones looked tough for us last year. Yeah. And Jordan Mason ran hard as hell last year, man. With the offensive line pieces we got and them, I really expected more. And even when it's working, KOC will get away from it sometimes. And it's frustrating. You're putting your young quarterbacks in a tough spot. Like I brought up earlier, the Bears basically beat the Eagles yesterday by just consistently running at them. And Caleb didn't even have to do much. He didn't even look that good. If they can play that kind of game, here's the thing. If you watch the games back, there have been guys open. KOC has schemed guys open. They're there. McCarthy's not seeing them. He's taking too long to process. Or when he does have them, he's missing them. Like he's throwing it into the dirt or 10 yards over their head. If Brosmer can stay composed and confident, man, the throws will be there for him. I think our run game will have some success, but if Brosmer plays smart and confident, man, he can keep moving the chains and then just let the big dog eat. Let Will the Thrill kick 6 field goals for all I care and sneak out there with our win, our best offensive
I'll take it.
weapon. Right, but
hey, Pro Bowl vote Will record.
Right, the plays I think will be there. I think they'll be there. I think Brosmer is going to surprise some people, but I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much.
Yeah, do it again. Yeah, do it again, Josh.
No,
do it again.
Let's
do it. Let's go all in. Let's just really look like idiots as long as we can. I don't think there's a such thing as opening up the playbook for Kevin O'Connell. I mean, JJ McCarthy got stuffed catching a pass like 2-3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? Like that man, for better or worse, will just think of 3rd and 1. I have 2 really good running backs, 45-yard deep shot. Like I would say, with a rookie, and maybe again, he'll adjust. I think if anything, maybe he'll be more conservative, but I just don't think, I just don't want Brosmer going out and catching a pass. I don't want some dumb trick play.
Right.
Like, and
or
knowing
TJ.
that, oh my God.
TJ,
I had forgotten. Steve, I had gotten over that because I was so mad about that sitting there at Lambeau, first time in Green Bay, livid. And then my number one boy goes out there and just poops all over the field for the second half. And I had really forgotten about the TJ Hawkinson crime against humanity. I think the Geneva Convention specifically outlaws that play call in that situation. Livid. So again, I don't think opening up the playbook is an issue for Kevin O'Connell. I think if anything, sometimes he needs to close a couple pages of it.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 5, which is winning the turnover battle. We're at the bottom of the league as far as the turnover ratio goes. Now, right behind us, though, is the Seahawks. The Seahawks do have a propensity to also turn the ball over. But it seems other than the Bengals game where we got 5 turnovers, we have 9 on the year. We really need to win the turnover battle or at least not lose it. And then whether it's at the quarterback position or whether it's on special teams with Miles Price, who's been solid most of the year. He's had 2 bad games now. Yeah, he's had 2 bad games, but other than that, um, and it was unfortunate what happened last week, but special teams field position is going to be critical, and not putting our
Another
defense in
PTSD
bad.
moment. Another reminder of pain.
And that's what we have as
Oh,
Vikings fans, right? This is reminders of pain.
That McCarthy performance was so bad in the second half. I forgot those 2 things in the last week, and now I'm mad all over again. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I'm just here to bring you back.
Yeah, because I'm doing
reminders.
I mean, my football fandom's been so peak lately. I really needed to, come back to reality.
Oh, well, here's a positive.
Okay.
You mentioned before, we have Will Reichard, Will the Thrill, man. He's been great all year. Through week 12, he was, again, he's missed 2 kicks, possibly, maybe perfect. He hit one that was a wire kick. I'm gonna say that was a wire. The second one, debatable, but this man is 6 for 8 on 50+ yard field goals. Ridiculous. Last week he hit 2 of 2, one from 52 and another one from 59. At least if we're looking at a positive spectrum of things, we have nightmares as far as kickers go in Vikings fandom, and hurting us in bad situations. I think it's safe to say we at least have our kicker for the long term in Will Reichard.
Yeah, you can all the haters. I'm taking my damn soapbox. All the haters and the whatever you want to call yourselves, the anti-Glazers, whatever, who come after, fathers and good human beings like myself and Josh. This is who you're attacking. You can come after us about JJ McCarthy, but one thing that we will stand on, and I know Josh will give me an amen on this, is we were there from the start with Will the Thrill Reichard. We saw the vision. We knew it. And yeah, he's a kicker. Yeah, quarterback's more important, but I don't care. We've never had a kicker really since I think Longwell was the last guy we could depend on, really. I think Forbath gets a bad rep. He was better than he got credit for, but he was still kind of inconsistent. And we were in a really bad place with kicker trust at that point. But I will victory lap the Will Reichard thing all day. I've started a Will the Thrill history series on my Twitter about him being the first man to go to the moon, Superman being based off him, and Batman being based off Andrew DePaula. This is part of the Pro Bowl campaign, where you can now vote on using hashtags on social media. So if you find my Twitter, please retweet and tag hashtag Pro Bowl vote Will Reichard. Josh and I will appreciate that, because that is our shining beacon of light in a very dark and depressing football season for the two of us.
Can we at least make sure he's not doing any more promos for like sports clips or whatever it is? Because
I love it. That in Walmart. Oh my God. That's how I knew this kid was a dog. Back to school ads. Back to school ad. Dude, the back to school ad with Walmart, him like sitting at like what looks like a high school with a backpack. Yeah. And this man's an NFL player and recent graduate of Alabama. I knew, I was like, this kid's hilarious. This guy's going to be a dog. Who's the guy, Josh, you always say from like Disney Channel, Neville something?
Oh, people say he looks like Neville Longbottom or whatever. It was love at first sight for me with Will the Thrill, man. The second I saw him, I was like, this looks like a Walmart stock boy. This looks like if you built a kicker in a lab, it's this kid. And he just was like, oh my God, I love this kid. And then he kicks and he's got the leg of a Greek god. And it's like, this is, perfect. He's perfect. I love him. I'm his number one fan. I have his jersey that last year when he got hurt, it looked bad because I dressed up as him for Halloween. And then from that moment is when the injury happened. It was like, what have I done? Like, did I just jinx this man?
You did. You're not his number one fan.
Yeah, maybe not. But he just got
I need a side-by-side here.
But there were people who were ready to throw him off the team for Parker Romo last year. I remember it because I was like, come on, man. The dude's clearly just going through it. Things will settle down, and it has it. He's been our best player. And it's funny because last year when the Bears were virtually out of it, I kind of made fun of them because they were posting Tory Taylor highlights. Post all the Will the Thrill highlights at this point. I'm here for all of them.
I did enjoy the Parker Romo saga because everyone, for some reason, in unison decided him and I were twins.
Yeah.
And I even in that moment, I was all about the Will Reichard agenda. But I did enjoy people photoshopping and face swapping me and John Parker Romo. That was a really fun 3 weeks for memes. But no, Will's a dog, and it's unfortunate that, I'm glad we get to appreciate how good he is. It's also really unfortunate that it's the only thing we get to appreciate this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of
sucks. Jalen Redmond.
Yeah,
Jalen Redmond. I think those of especially towards the end of last year, I think the real ones started paying attention to what he was doing. I'm really, really excited about him. But yet, I mean, trying to think. I mean, Jalen Naylor. He's even despite the difficulties of the passing game, he's been very consistent. He limited his drops, which even last year, which was a relative breakout year for him. I think he had those 5 touchdowns in like the first part of the season. He dealt with a lot of drops. He's limited those. And he's making like super difficult catches too. Nothing makes sense.
And you covered
nothing makes sense.
You covered in training camp, Jason. I mean, he was having trouble holding onto the ball in
training. Him and Addison too. Addison was dropping everything almost in camp. You'll have like a highlight catch a day.
The only one not dropping things.
And Naylor's catching everything, man.
I don't get it. Nothing makes sense this year. Everything that was supposed, and again, like to cover me and Josh and like take the L we deserve to take. We know quarterback's the biggest thing. We're with you. We agree. But at the same time, everything we traded for Adam Thielen, not because he can get downfield, but for his hands.
Yeah.
I've never seen him drop a catch in my life. Like nothing that was supposed to be the case has really been consistent. Even what we thought during the season, and you kind of brought it up going back to special teams. Miles Price, what a dog. He's returning every kick. But it's those damn penalties bringing it back. And now we're not getting penalties, and he's doing some of the dumbest things I've ever seen on a football field. Makes no sense.
If you're not going to return it, get away from the football. It's that easy.
Go ahead.
Oh, let's jump into some of our matchups that we're going to see. And again, these are just my takes on it. We can make some quick comments on them, but this is how I see, at least these two teams matching up. Like I said, on the defensive side of the ball, they're very sound on the defensive side of the ball as well. They rank 4th in run defense. So that is something to where that's why I'm giving the Seahawks the edge, at least in the running game. And that Aaron Jones is Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Plus we don't know if we're going to have even Darisaw, and we might be missing 2 starters on the OL. And then they rank 10th in the pass rush and 4th in pass coverage. So that's what makes it difficult. I don't really say that they can cover Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. It's going to be more of, can they put pressure on Max Brasmer, in my opinion, and can Max get them the ball?
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Witherspoon for Seahawks, he's going to be all over Justice JJ and Jordan Addison, man. He's a tough corner. And he was all up in Jefferson's face last time running his mouth, and it was a good matchup. But Justin did Justin things, man. He had the game-winning touchdown, but he doesn't have Sam Darnold thrown to him this time, man. So if the quarterback, the O-line aren't doing their things, then receiver position becomes obsolete. So our 2 matchups that we have favored in really relies on other things going well on top of it.
I think this is one of those matchups, though, that Justin Jefferson gets up for because he's facing JSN this week.
Yeah.
And he's gotten some questions about JSN's performance this year, and obviously I think he wants to still establish himself as, hey, I'm top dog, or I'm still here. And I think he sees an opportunity with Max Brasmer, maybe to get a few more catchable balls thrown his way.
He's probably walking up to Brosmer in the locker room with a baseball bat he walked up to McCarthy with on the flight back from Green Bay and saying, hey, you're going to throw the ball my way whenever you can. For legal purposes, all of that is a joke. Don't get mad. But I do think Witherspoon's pretty physical, but he also kind of can be his own enemy sometimes. And I think there's going to be multiple chances for basically a free pass where it's going to be a little chippy. And if Brosmer really is reading the field correctly, he'll throw it that way. And Jefferson will either come down with it or it'll be a PI call. I think we'll see a couple chunk plays where that ends up being the case. That's a little prediction. I think Jefferson will probably gain the Vikings around 60 to 70 yards in field position from defensive penalties.
Okay, well, let's take a look at how I have Packers on there with the Seahawks logo. That's as far as the matchup and how it favors Sam Darnold, Kenneth Walker, Najigba. That offense, they've performed except for the Rams game all year round. I got to give the leverage to them in this game. Now, Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, I think Rashid, the chemistry hasn't quite been there yet, or at least we have not seen that with Sam Darnold and Rashid. And then for some reason, just Cooper Kupp, and that's probably because him and JSN kind of play the same position, if you will, as a slot receiver. And I think, that's a little bit of a struggle to where Cooper has to play a different type of role in that offense when JSN, they're trying to move him around a little bit and get favorable matchups.
Yeah, JSN, man, I watched him a lot with Ohio State around here, man. He was probably, in my opinion, the best wide receiver to be from Ohio State of the recent ones. Like, even the dudes who were played with him at the time were saying that. And I remember when he came out, his draft stock was dropping a little bit. They pulled the Justin Jefferson thing with him where they're like, this dude's strictly a slot. And it's like, whoa, just because he played there mostly in college doesn't mean that he can't move it around and everything. And he's proved he's kind of top dog this year, man. And I don't know if we got the guys to match up with him. But the thing with him, man, Sammy and him have a connection on those deep balls, man. We can just not keep everything in front of us, cannot let them get behind us, man, because that's where they will kill us.
I will debate this graphic and say that there are indeed only two matchups the Vikings should win, but it's Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold. Because going back to the point I made earlier, Sam Darnold, incredible arm, Brian Flores, evil, supposed to be, maybe not so much this year, evil genius. I think what the Vikings pass rush is capable of at its best is Sam Darnold's worst nightmare. It might, and like I may very well say that.
Is Grenard going to be there?
I think even without him, I think that Dallas Turner has shown in that position. Yeah, he's not as good as, he has more sacks on the year than Grenard does, which is another conversation. But
sure,
I do think that him lining up in Grenard's spot as a true rusher has been a lot better than when we tried to, kind of make him the Swiss Army knife that Gink is. I still think that it's more of the scheme and the ability to get in Darnold's head. On paper I think that should be an advantage for the Vikings. Now, granted, we've seen how this defense has had every reason to have an advantage and completely fallen off. I would even maybe venture to say, actually, I'm going to even go further and say that Sam Darnold's probably the only advantage we have, because what is the weakness that Sam knows the defense has? Middle of the field. And Cooper Kupp is going to take advantage, especially in his older age, not necessarily doing the deeper routes. He's going to take advantage of the middle of the field. And I think he's going to be open a few times. We've seen it time and time again. I think, Josh, you and I both tweet it every week. We'll have like a 3rd and 15 and it's picked up. And it's picked up. And it's the middle of the field every single time. And again, that's probably less of a matchup situation and more of a schematic issue, because sometimes if the pressure doesn't get home, you're cooked. There's going to be a guy. Everyone now knows with Flores' defense, get to the middle of the field, depending on the yardage, just shortly past the sticks, and you'll likely pick it up. So I would say Sam Darnold on paper should be the matchup that we're able to affect most.
Yeah.
And he may very well throw for 490 tomorrow and 5 touchdowns. But I still will stand on business that I do believe there's no excuse not to screw him up. They have all the resources and they have all the intel. This is a team that moved off from him because of the ability for teams to get in his head and derail what he's good at.
Yeah, like I said earlier, man, that Jets game, you could see it. I expected him to have a big game against the Jets, emotions high, and it seemed like he just was pushing it a little bit or in his head too much. And we got to hope that Sam shows up, because he has been great this year. But that Rams game where he had to have it in his head at least a little bit last year, how things went, and like it turned out that way again, man. So we got to hope that Sam shows up and our pass rush shows up, because if not, it's probably going to be a long day. But I expect a better game than people think. I don't know that we'll win, but I expect it to be competitive.
Yeah,
at least.
I agree.
I think with Max Brosmer, I think we have the capability of doing so, at least offensively, and maybe sustaining a few more drives. I just think he's farther along in where he needs to be as a quarterback than JJ McCarthy is as far as throwing the ball. And I think we'll see that on the field as long as our offensive line can hold up long enough to help him out and also help out our running game. Now we're getting towards the end of the show. Before I go into the portion with Russ Baxter from On SI, who covers the Seahawks, do you guys have any final words that you want to share with the followers today?
Do I want to do like a Super Bowl? What are you thinking, Josh? Do you want to do like a crazy call your shot? Like who's the quarterback next year? Like, what do you want to do? I want to say some wild predictions so we could try. Let's take some Hail Marys to redeem ourselves.
Okay.
Who's your starting quarterback for the Vikings week 1 next year?
Mac Jones. I think it's going to be someone like that. I really do, man. I really think that, I don't know, dude, this meme stuff with McCarthy, if he comes back from all this, it's going to be the biggest comeback story ever, maybe, dude, because people are down on this kid, and I'm not completely out, but I do think he needs time, probably like a Trey Lance type treatment at this point, maybe, where he needs more time to sit. And Mac Jones has looked really good for San Francisco, and that's where we got
sick of getting the
we seem to be
Shanahan rehab,
and I'm fine with JJ still being potentially the QB of the future and just Mac possibly being a bridge, but that's what Sam did. He came over from San Francisco and the Shanahan offense, and he lit it up and had a career year, man. I think,
Josh, if the price is a second, are you still doing it?
No.
Nah.
A third and like a late round swap.
But I even someone like, I don't know if they'll be the starter, but I expect someone like Davis Mills, who stepped in good for the Texans. I expect someone to be brought in, because obviously we need competition in that room. And I'm just going to throw the Hail Mary and say Mac Jones is going to be the starter, while JJ is still learning behind him, possibly a Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson type situation for now.
Yeah, I want to say, I bet they kick the can probably to no avail on Burrow and Herbert, because desperation. And Jim Harbaugh might, he's artificially throwing the ball in an offense he doesn't want to with Herbert, because they're paying him so much. He doesn't want to throw it that much, but he can't justify paying him that much. If we trade McCarthy to the Chargers and get Herbert, we're facing them in the Super Bowl and we're losing, because that's just obviously what would happen. It's just too on brand. I want to say, I think the thing that makes the most sense is Anthony Richardson. You bring him and McCarthy in. Well, they tried to trade 2 or 3 first-round picks for him. They tried.
Crazy. I'm a Florida
fan. You think the McCarthy
no.
thing's crazy? They tried to trade multiple first-round picks for Richardson.
Yeah,
that's
I like
crazy.
Yeah, I like the
so
Gators, and
I think you bring them both in and you force them both to work with Hess, the quarterback coach who fixed Josh Allen. And you say, whoever gets fixed the most, you're starting. I think that or Mac Jones are most likely. I'm going to call my shot and say a certain short king, we're going to disconnect his internet router, make him leave his Xbox at home, Make him leave the Xbox at home. Kyler Murray is the most. Somebody who lived in Arizona and went to a few Cardinals games, one against the Vikings, and then some random teams. I've never seen somebody more infuriating and exciting. He will turn his body around. You'll be sitting in the end zone with his back to you, and he will run at you, plant his front foot, which is technically now the furthest foot away from the play, pivot and throw back across his body 60 yards, and it's either an interception or a touchdown, and you've never seen anything like it. I think KO might look at that and be like, I could probably fix this guy, and that's intriguing. I just don't know if he could see over our O-line.
Yeah.
That's a genuine issue.
Yeah, he is intriguing, man. And that he scares me a little bit too, because the talent is there. Like, you've seen moments, and he's in Arizona, you know what I mean? So, but like, they got Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr., and at times they've looked kind of better with Jacoby Brissett under center. You know, like, so, you know,
that's why I think they move off of him. I think they move off of him for that reason.
I think so. I would embrace Kyler. I'd be a little surprised. Herbert, I would be in total shock if the Bengals ever traded damn near anybody, let alone Burrow. But God, I wish, because I've
only reason I bring it up is Schefter made the point that he, even with the dead cap, he has the power to ask out, and he has, and even if the Jets seem like the obvious suitor, he has a no trade clause. But I think the Bengals, and I've been saying this, obviously they just came off a big win against a up and down Ravens team, but I think the Bengals have really, they've tried to play the NFL like it's franchise mode on rookie mode in Madden, where you just get 4 99 overall guys and then you hope for the best, basically. Mm-hmm. It's not sustainable to win football games. They might have to reevaluate genuinely how they built their roster. But hey, I mean, why not replace one injury-prone number 9 with a better injury-prone number 9 behind a sketchy O-line? Wow, seems like that'll work.
Well, and I'm going to have to agree with you. I think that Kyler Murray is maybe the best option that's maybe available for the right price, because I think it's more of a buy low type scenario that the Vikings would be, in for. I don't know if I really like what's out there for the draft right now at quarterback as far as where we're at. We'll have to see as it gets a little bit closer, but taking a look at it, is the Justin Herbert trade likely? I would say probably not. Definitely don't see anything Joe Burrow wise. So who else is available? Mac Jones. Well, the Niners probably want too high of a price than the Vikings are willing to pay for that. But if I had to put them in order, probably Kyler is a possibility if it's not JJ starting the year. But I do think they bring in a veteran no matter what. So Kyler is what I'd have to say is a number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go with Mac Jones. Number 3, I'm going to say that I'm not saying he's starting. Somehow Anthony Richardson ends up here. And then this is just something. Do you guys think that there's any possibility? And I don't know what his contract looks like. I might have to look it up. Is Malik Willis going to be looking for a team next year?
I would not go. I think that's too much of a project. I like Malik coming out for the right team, but I think that's too much of a project. You think you get all that upside and more arm talent with Anthony Richardson. As far as the mobility, I think that Anthony Richardson has more pure arm talent than Malik. I don't know if Josh, a Florida fan, I don't know if you'd agree. I think his ceiling's higher and it'd likely be the same cost.
His ceiling's Mewtwo, the freaking Pokemon. He's, he's an alien athletically, but the dude can't hit the broadside of a barn throwing, and he seems kind of mentally fragile, and that kind of mirrors kind of what we might have. The other AR might be the option. Aaron Rodgers.
That is true.
We might be a year. We might have been a year early, unfortunately, with that. And at this point, hell, what do you got to lose, man?
We go from one meme year at quarterback into another meme year, and completing the prophecy is what you're
I will say. I think I'm willing to admit, but I'm going to double down at the same time. I think moving on. I have no regrets about moving on from Sam. I do think Rodgers was probably the move. However, I probably wouldn't sign him next year because we've seen bits and pieces of it this year. He's age is obviously a factor, but the biggest thing is that I think his age hasn't allowed him to fully recover from that Achilles injury. And we've seen flashes of his arm We've seen a couple really great deep passes, but it's not,
Mhm.
it's a consistent part of his game that's not there anymore because it's just your body. We've even seen it with Kirk to an extent. Yes, there's flashes, but that Achilles injury, once you're in your mid 30s, it's just really hard to ever regain your plant and your base as much as you previously had it. And it does impact your deep throws.
It's Caleb Dog on YouTube says, I'm a Vikings fan. I've been hearing that the Vikings are interested in trading for Anthony Richardson. We've seen the different pictures and video of KOC talking to Anthony Richardson too after playing the Colts and, telling him that he's talented and stuff like that. And so there's little rumors in there. And then he also says, I think if Brosmer wins tomorrow, we play him for the rest of the season and we see what we have with them. I don't think that that's likely that we play him for the rest of the season. I think JJ still plays at some point this year. Um, I think it's possible if he plays well enough, he maybe starts the following week, though,
Yeah.
at week 14.
It depends on what type of factor he is. If the defense goes out and has like 4 pick sixes on Darnold and Brosmer's like 120 yards and that's it, like you have to go and see like, okay, who did we actually really, really bet it all on, and can we salvage anything, or can we completely close the book and not leave any questions left unanswered? I think that's why, barring, and again, I'm hoping, we see a lot of bros bombs tomorrow, as we're calling them, a lot of deep shots, a lot of tutties. It's great throws for, 280, 290, 3 touchdowns. That'd be great. Anything short of that, I think the team has to make sure that they have every bit of info available on McCarthy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna expect to see the next Tom Brady anymore because those always come crashing down. I think we will see JJ McCarthy. I just expect it, feel like it's more likely. But if Brosmer goes out and wins, I feel like and looks good, you have to start him the next week. Just be cautious with JJ. But it's a fragile situation, like Jason said, when you have a first-year guy and another first-year guy and one who wasn't even drafted. When you're playing the guy who wasn't drafted over the one who was top 10, it's not a good look, and it's can be tough to come back from. So unless Brosmer wins and lights it up, I think we'll see JJ again.
Do you guys want to make a prediction for tomorrow?
Do I want to?
Do you want to?
Or will
you
I?
have
Different
to.
questions. Different
questions.
I think I have the Vikings 16 and the Seahawks like 28. I think we get 3 incredible, perfect form, beautiful Will Reichard kicks, and I think Brosmer takes the team down, and I'm going to call a touchdown to Hawkinson because Hawkinson needs to do something.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm about off the Hawkinson train. The less Hawk, the better. I don't know, dude. We just don't use them enough to have for that kind of contract and everything. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna sit here and say I expect to win against this team that's rolling on all cylinders while we're feeling like we're the laughing stock of the league. I expect it to be a competitive game. I think we're like a double-digit underdog. Like I think the books have it's something
12.
crazy. Yeah,
something wild, bro.
That's wild. Like that's crazy if you don't follow that kind of stuff. But I think we'll definitely cover. I think it'll be a competitive game. I don't necessarily expect to win, but at this point, we lose one more, we're probably out of the playoff picture. So like I just want to see growth in the young players.
Absolutely.
Pray to God for the best, but that's what I'm looking for. I want to see some fight in these guys, man, because the season hasn't worked out how we thought it would. But every job is damn near on the line at this point. When you get to this point in the season and it's looked the way it has, nothing's off the table and you got to look at everything. So I expect the boys to come out there and compete, man. They're technically not out of it. They got a lot to prove. Maybe Brosmer will be the spark they need. I expect it to be competitive. I don't know that we'll walk out with a win, though.
Well, I'm going to go with 30-20. I think the Seahawks do get the win. But I think Brosmer goes out and throws at least a touchdown. I think we get 2 touchdowns in the game, whether it's him throwing or we get a rushing touchdown in there. I think he's able to lead us down there in the red zone to at least succeed twice in the red zone in the form of a touchdown, a couple Will Reichard field goals, get us to 20. But that's what I got. If you want to follow Jason Harmon. Again, check him out. Before I Die podcast on Score North, Vikings content for Sleeper NFL as well. There's his X account _Jason_777. And then, of course, if you want to follow Josh, the Brohioan, on social media, go ahead and check him out at the Brohioan. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us again on the Vikings Central podcast. We're going to roll into our next segment that we have. This is a really long pregame show this time, but hey, when you have two good guests like yourselves, there's a lot to talk about, right?
Yeah, you put two homies on the podcast, it's going to go a minute.
Two professional yappers.
Yeah, two glazers, whatever, memers, whatever we've been called. Yeah.
Well, seriously, I appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you guys on again. I know, Josh, we've had you on a couple times, and Jason, you've been on the Fantasy 15 before too. Hope you have you on here again. Again, it's just talking about Vikings football, and you guys are great guests. Always welcome here on the show. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And now we're going to go ahead and roll into our next guest that we have. And of course, this was recorded, and we're going to roll into Russell Baxter, who covers the Seattle Seahawks for on SI and is a writer for the NFL Spin Zone. So with that, here is that recording. All right. For our next segment, we have an exciting guest with us, and that's Russell Baxter. Now, Russ Baxter, he's been writing research in the game of football for more than 40 years. And on numerous platforms. That includes television, where he spent more than 2 decades at ESPN and was part of shows that garnered 5 Emmy Awards. He also spent the 2015 NFL season with Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network, and he currently covers the Chargers, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Bills for On SI, and then writes for the NFL Spin Zone. So exciting guest that we have for you for this segment to help us cover our foe for this pregame on Vikings Central. For the Seahawks, our opponent in week 13, I'm going to go ahead and welcome no other than Russ Baxter. All right, Russ, how are we doing?
We're doing good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and adding some perspective for the opposing team, the Seattle Seahawks, and just a little bit about you, Russ. How long have you been writing sports, and other than the 40 years, like, has this always been a career life decision for you?
Well, I would say in my mid-20s, I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. But my mother always told me I had some natural writing ability. I was a football addict, loved watching the games. Used to sit in the living room with a friend of mine, and we'd hook up 4 televisions and watch 4 games at the same time. This is like in the early 80s. And one thing led to another, built a resume, got hired in New York. People who watch ESPN will be familiar with the name Howie Schwab, who was the famous Stump the Schwab trivia guy.
Okay, yep.
And
Absolutely.
Howie hired me in the late 80s at a paper called College and Pro Football News Weekly. 2 years later, he had already been at ESPN. They were looking for some extra help there. And then I freelanced for them, eventually went up there, eventually wound up full-time, worked on ESPN, the magazine, was involved primarily with Sunday NFL Countdown, NFL Primetime, which was an absolute joy. Did the NFL draft every year, was able to attend multiple Super Bowls, and all because I just loved writing football and enjoyed what I did. Truth be told, no college education, just a lot of passion, and probably the right place at the right time when it came to ESPN, who had just signed an NFL contract. They were born in 79. In 87, they finally got some NFL games. So again, right place, right time. And worked with 2 men who changed my life, and Chris Berman and Tom Jackson, along with so many other people, the Chris Mortensons, the Sterling Sharps, just a joyride, a who's who.
Those are the guys I grew up watching on TV, right?
Yeah, and some of them would kid me, Russ, you know more about my career than I do. Well, but my job there was to make sure they were accurate. That was the most important thing to me. I used to have a saying there, Steve: everyone is right, not everyone is accurate. So if Tommy and Chris and or Sterling or Mort went on the air and said something, everything, we made sure everything was verified. You know, we didn't have hot takes and wing jobs or anything like that. It was, especially in NFL primetime, you wanted to make sure you were very accurate. That show, to me, was groundbreaking and still maybe arguably the best show in the history of that network. But it was not my job to give my opinion. I could give it, but it's my job to make sure when our talent went on the air, what they were saying was 100% accurate.
Now, you also write for the NFL Spin Zone. So now we can follow you on Backs, and I'm just going to bring that up real quick. Backs Football Guru. We can follow you on X for that, but you also write for the NFL Spin Zone. What exactly is the NFL Spin Zone for our followers?
NFL Spin Zone is affiliated with Fansided. And I wrote for Fansided for a long time. I also did some of their other teams. I did Fin Fanatic. I did Titan Sized, obviously for the Miami Dolphins and Tennessee Titans. But on NFL Spin Zone, it's a little different format than Fansided. And I have 4 weekly columns I do during the football season. One is food for thought, quick hitting stuff on every game that's being played. Key stats, which was a bit of a joy for me when I was at ESPN. I used to appear weekly during the football season on Mike and Mike in the morning. And there was a little segment we called the 5 things you needed to know. And most of the time it was 4 things you needed to know and something about the Jets that made Mike Greenberg happy or sad. Then I also do something called wildly bold predictions. And then during the weeks where teams are off, I do a bi-week report card. Okay, so this week, Denver and the Chargers and Miami and Washington all return to action, and I put out a report card on how I think they've done and graded out all season. Now, this is a week where there'll be no report card because for the first time since week 4, all 32 teams are playing this week.
Well, it's exciting to have you on, and obviously when we are having a Vikings versus Seahawks showdown in Week 13, we thought it was going to be featuring JJ McCarthy versus Sam Darnold, but no JJ McCarthy. He wasn't able to pass the concussion protocol, so Max Brosmer, former U of M, University of Minnesota quarterback, he gets his first NFL start this week, and with Max Brosmer starting against the Seahawks, I think Seahawks staff are probably scrambling a little bit to try to watch some preseason tape of Max Brosmer and maybe even some of what he was doing in college to try to get a read on what he's going to do this weekend, right?
Yes, but I will say this. I think Max Brosmer will be scrambling even more on Sunday against the Seattle defense, which can really get after you. Very, very physical team. Leonard Williams up the middle. Excellent secondary, although it's been banged up this year. This is a very potent Seattle team on both sides of the ball. So, and this has got to be tough for Kevin O'Connell, who went through the whole season last year with Sam Darnold as a starter, and he's now used 3 different starting quarterbacks. It'll be his 3rd different starting quarterback this year, and that's no mistake, or it's certainly easy to understand the problems that they've had offensively. And I'm quick to point out that the Vikings come into this game leading the league in turnovers with 21. The good news for them, though, is Seattle is 2nd with 20. So I'll make a little joke here. I think the biggest challenge for Sam Darnold this week is making sure he walks into the right locker room.
I think you and I are tracking on the same page as far as what the keys of the game are going to be for the Seattle Seahawks facing the Minnesota Vikings. But when we take a look at the tail of the tape for Week 13, you kind of hit it on it. They're pretty sound on both sides of the ball. At least when we take a look at PFF stats overall, they're the 2nd-ranked team. They're 2nd ranked on offense. They're the 6th rated team on defense and 3rd on special teams. They've been having, I would say, a very successful year in terms of course, their record at 8-3. But on both sides of the ball, they're a very balanced team. When we look at the, a little bit even more in depth. Now, Sam Darnold, I think he's been playing well. I don't want to say great, but he played last year. He played great. this year, I would say that Sam is playing good. He's got 19 touchdowns. He's thrown 10 interceptions. And like you talked about turnovers, that being a factor, Sam's been part of that as well this season. And they rank 5th in passing offense. And largely that's part of the success that Sam is having with the ball, but taking care of the ball could be something that the Seahawks have struggled with, but the Vikings have also struggled on defense lately in taking away the ball. So hopefully from a Viking standpoint, our defense is looking and hoping that we can kind of even it out or finally be on the right side of the turnover battle.
Well, Sam, he had this 2-game stretch, and as well as I do that when you win, things get glossed over.
Yeah.
Okay. And it bothered me personally, okay, as I'm watching the game against the Cardinals the week before the Rams game, that Darnold turned over the ball 3 times, and he set the Cardinals up twice deep in Seattle territory. Now, they were blowing them out, but one thing leads to another. So you turn over the ball 7 times in 2 games. That's disturbing. Okay.
Right.
And the Seahawks have 20 turnovers this year. He has 14 of them. So I want to say last year he had 16 turnovers in 17 games, 12 picks and 4 lost fumbles. Sometimes lost fumbles get glossed over. A lot of times you'll see graphics on TV, and for a quarterback, it's always touchdowns and interceptions. I'm more of a total turnovers guy. Turnover is a turnover. I don't care how you give away the football. So now the problem with the Vikings this year is they have not been able to take advantage of teams who are willing to give them the football. Last year, them and the Steelers had 33 takeaways. The Vikings have 9 this year. That's a tremendous drop-off. And then you combine that with the fact that they've given up the ball more than anyone else. That really puts them behind the 8 ball. And that's why they were in the midst of a disappointing season. Let's be honest. They've already lost more than twice as many games as they did all last year. And remember, last year, the Bears were the only team in the division with a losing record. Right now, the Vikings are the only team in the division with a losing record. So
now, and with the turnover battle, I mean, we talk about, only 9 takeaways for the Vikings. 5 of those were in one game versus the Bengals.
Against Cincinnati, yeah.
So, over the long stretch of the season, it's even less, throughout. And we've been giving up the ball, 2 to 3 times a game here regularly. So, yes, definitely something that we want to try to correct or fix or get on the right side. Now, when we take a look at some of the keys to the game, now these are ones that I put together, and Russ, I'm hoping that you can jump on with me, but I think that we're going to see eye to eye on some of these, and I'll run down these and then we'll go through one by one. But I think the Seattle D creating pressure against the Vikings backup QB Max Brosmer is going to be a key topic. I talked about winning the turnover battle, and so did you, Russ. So I think we're on the same page there with both teams having turned over the ball a lot this season, and then trying to take advantage and turning them into points. I think the Seahawks are going to want to get JSN the ball early and often, get them going, and get Sam in a rhythm, and keeping Darnold clean versus the Vikings pass rush, which the Vikings have been having pressure success, but maybe not sack and drive killing success. And then also establishing the run with Walker and Charbonnet. So before we, turn this on its head, we're going to go through one by one because I got a big one for you at the end. But, we're going to go ahead and jump into that first one. And Seahawks key number 1, Seattle's D creating pressure against the Vikings backup QB Max Brosmer. If you're a defensive lineman or that front 7, you got to be licking your chops that you're going to have the opportunity against a rookie quarterback in his first NFL start. But would they rather be facing JJ McCarthy in this other than Max Brosmer, who is maybe a little bit more polished mechanic wise?
Well, that's a great question, because the one thing I think the one thing watching JJ McCarthy that has concerned me was, and listen, he had the fourth quarter heroics in week 1 against the Bears. I'm still trying to figure out how they beat the Lions in Detroit a couple of weeks ago. But I don't know about you, but his balls are really sailing.
The
I've
JJ
seen him
McCarthy, yes.
overthrow a lot of people and wide open guys, overthrows that have led to interceptions. I don't know what exactly the cause of that is. But one big key to getting pressure on Max Brosmer is shutting down the Vikings from having any kind of running game and putting him in 3rd and 8 and 2nd and 10 and those situations. Obviously, this is a league now where we kind of stress passing more than running. But on the other hand, you've seen the revival of the running games by teams. You definitely saw it last year. We certainly saw it Friday in Philadelphia. 2 backs for the Bears went over 100 yards. They had 281 yards rushing against the Eagles, which is astounding. But yeah, keeping the heat on him, making him uncomfortable, and it'll be interesting to see. Maybe he does come in a little more poised and a little less jittery than JJ McCarthy has looked pretty much for the whole year, with the exception of a couple fourth quarters.
And Max Brosmer has at least 6 years as a starting quarterback in FBS football, or Division I, FCS and FBS combined.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of starting experience and a lot more experience just throwing the ball and being a pure passer, where I think his mechanics are a little bit more polished, and I think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable in that situation. What we saw in training camp from Max Brosmer was eagerness to not only want to learn, but eagerness to also get the coach's ear. And, he wanted to be the guy, and I think he had to come to the realization that, hey, JJ's the focus. So I'm not going to get as many reps. I'm not going to get, as much attention from the coaching staff as JJ McCarthy. And I think that it's good to see that he wanted that. He's going to get the opportunity. And he did this week with a full week of practice to really kind of be the focus this week versus the Seattle Seahawks. And we'll see how he performs.
I'll be very curious to see how that goes. I'll be interested to know how much time he probably spent also with Brian Flores this week in terms of defenses, and how much they have not only gone back. Remember, Mike McDonald's resume in Seattle is a year and a half. Okay. If I'm breaking down Seattle's defense, I'm also taking a peek at his last year in Baltimore as well. Remember, that team gave up the fewest points in the league. They tied for the most takeaways. They had the most sacks. Okay. And that's the reason Mike McDonald got hired by Seattle in 2024. So hopefully they really did their homework. We know it's going to be loud there. Seattle's always loud, although it's almost inexplicable, Steve, that since McDonald got there, the Seahawks are a better road team than they are a home team.
And it's weird when that happens. It almost seems like the Vikings have been playing better on the road than they have been at home. I think the 12 starts at home.
Yeah, I think the 12th man might have lost his press credential. I think, and he hasn't been allowed back in the building. I don't know, but you think that they lost to the Bucs at home this year. They lost to the 49ers at home. I mean, this team is lost 3 games by 9 points. So they've been in everything, and they've certainly had their share of blowout wins as well. This is a very, very dangerous team in a very, very dangerous NFC.
Now we take a look at key number 2, winning the turnover battle. You touched on it. I touched on it. I think this is absolutely going to be a focus now with Seattle's defense up front and creating a pressure. So key number 1 kind of turns into key number 2 with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy pushing right up the middle. And they've had a lot of success and playing very well this year. Winning that turnover battle is going to be crucial. So making mistakes that the Vikings have had has been coming from the quarterback position. And we've had some fumbling with special teams. Now with Max Brosmer there, do we have a little bit better protection with the football? We'll see. But obviously getting pressure with those 2 individuals up the middle, I think is going to be key for the Seahawks. And Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy Jr. pushing up front on an offensive line that will be without Donovan Jackson at left guard. The Vikings will be this week, and we're still questionable on Christian Darrisaw at left tackle.
Yeah, this is a tall task. There's no question about it, because Seattle really put a lot of emphasis on their defensive line in recent years. It's funny because when you go back and look what John Schneider did in the offseason, they wound up with 11 draft choices. Okay. I don't know how many people realize that they only used 2 of them on defense. They drafted 9 offensive players, okay, including Gray Zabel on the offensive line, and they added to their wide receiver room. Their emphasis in the offseason was the offensive line. And I know we'll get to that in a second as far as how improved they are in terms of pass protection. But defensively, they can do a lot of big things. And I think that frustrating loss to the Rams, in which they held the Rams down, like well under 300 yards of total offense, if memory serves me correct. And the 4 picks were obviously the difference. And think about it, even as badly as Darnold played and gave away the football, they lined up for a 61-yard field goal on the final play of the game. Now, he didn't make it, but they would have stolen that game, literally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they rolled up a lot of yards against a Rams defense that a lot of people are excited about and talk about a lot and so on. But in my mind, they're more pass rush than they are run stoppers. So that's something to keep in mind down the road here, so on. But yeah, keeping him safe, avoiding the mistakes, and especially a mistake in which someone is a scoop and score, which usually changes the whole momentum of the game. But the Seahawks have had very few games this year, Steve, where they didn't turn over the ball at least once. You don't do 20 turnovers in 11 games and it's just all one big sloppy mess. So
right.
They might get an opportunity or two with a short field in this game.
And that's something the Vikings can't afford. And one thing they can't afford is the Seahawks getting going early with Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's leading all receivers right now with receiving yards. And the Seahawks made a big move at the trade deadline by bringing in Rashid Shaheed to pair them with also Cooper Kupp. Let's not forget who's back healthy now too. Mm-hmm. So how big of an addition is a burner like Rashid Shaheed in that offense when you have JSN, and both Cooper Kupp and JSN like to play a lot of slot type looks. And I know that they're going to move JSN and get him in favorable matchups all game long, but stretching the field with Rashid Shaheed. I haven't seen many Seahawks games lately with Rashid since he's been added, but how big of a boon has that been to that team?
I think slowly but surely he'll get more integrated into the offense. He hasn't had a big impact so far. But the point that you made about getting the ball to Jackson Smith-Njigba early was something they did against Tennessee. They're coming off that rough loss to the Rams, and they got a long touchdown from Darnold to Smith-Njigba early in that game. And remember, Tennessee kind of hung around. The final score was probably a little deceptive, 30-24. Seattle was really in control of that game. But you said it best. The guy's leading the league in receiving yards. He has, I want to say, 7 or 8 100-yard receiving games. And it wasn't like he got it all in one big lump. He's been steady. He was a 1,000-yard receiver for them last year, was a Pro Bowler last year. Remember, their receiving core had Tyler Lockett, had DK Metcalf. They cut Lockett, who's now with the Raiders, reunited with Geno Smith. Metcalf was traded, which enabled them to get an extra second-round draft pick. So John Schneider's done a good job revamping this. This offense is totally different than it was a year ago. And I know we're going to talk about the offensive line because that was one of the worst in the league last year in terms of pass protection. And they've done like a real 180 in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba is coming off of a 8 reception, 167-yard game with 2 touchdowns against Tennessee. So they got him going early. And yes, like you said, the score was a lot closer at the end, but there's a lot of garbage time coming back in that game to try to get it closer. But we're going to roll into number 4 because, like you said, offensive line, trying to keep Sam Darnold clean. versus the Minnesota Vikings pass rush. Now, Minnesota, in the last 2 games that we had him in Minnesota last year, those were the struggles that we saw with Sam holding the ball a little bit too long. And there's probably a combination, depending on who you talk to
Right.
with the Vikings fan base, of whether that was a combination of the offensive line or just Sam holding onto the ball too long. But keeping Sam Darnold clean, not taking those sacks that are drive killers, is going to be key for the Seahawks. For the Minnesota Vikings pass rush, we'll see if Jonathan Grenard, who's still questionable, is back in the lineup this week. But that rotation between Andrew Van Ginkel and then also Dallas Turner, trying to get to him. We added Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen as pass rushers on the inside as well. So that's going to be a key thing, and the reason why we added them, where Flo's going to send some different looks to create pressure to try to get to Sam. And those are the little intricacies where Sam got to play against Flo's defense in practice all year last year. But on the same hand, Flo also got to play against Sam Darnold. So I think both of them know each other's weaknesses and strengths. And that'll be the interesting chess game in week 13.
Yeah, I know there was a quote out there about from Brian Flores complimenting Sam Darnold and his relationship with him, but he made it very clear that he was going to blitz him this week. So that's all I have to know. But I'll go back. I want to talk about the Seattle Seahawks offensive line real briefly, because last year with Geno Smith, and again, sacks are a combination of the quarterback sometimes holding the ball too long and the offensive line not being very good. And the Seahawks needed to get better on the offensive line. They were a 10-win team last year that gave up 54 sacks, and 50 of those were on Geno Smith. They are an 8-win team this year so far, and Sam Darnold's only been sacked 11 times.
They rank 12th in pass blocking this year. So they're at least in the top half of the NFL.
Right, and that is tremendous improvement. They've gotten good play from the tackles. Charles Cross is a guy who one of these days is going to have a real breakout season, but he's easily their best offensive lineman. I think a lot of it has to do with the new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, as well. They're getting, Jackson Smith-Njigba has enormous numbers, but I think Darnold's done a decent job of spreading the ball around. Again, they don't play many games where they don't turn over the football. I think that's just who they are. And they were like that with Geno Smith last year. Okay. So, and it's weird to see that with a new system in terms of just still having the same problems, but maybe the problems are really the quarterback who used to play for the Jets and the other quarterback who used to play for the Jets. And I don't mean to pick on the Jets, but you look at their turnover numbers and you look at Geno's turnover numbers with the Raiders this year, and they're up again, once again. So Sam has gone in many places and had problems with ball security. I believe he has over, is it 100 or maybe at least 100 career turnovers in 8 years in the NFL. You've been with 5 different teams. Some guys are just like that. Some guys get sacked and protect the ball, and they don't give it up on fumbles. Again, I always look at fumbles as well as interceptions. But there's no doubt that Sam Darnold's also turned the corner in terms of early in his career. Now, and I think here's something to consider, and you know this as well as anyone. So Sam Darnold's been sacked, double check, 11 times in 11 games. His last game with the Vikings, he was sacked 9 times.
9 times. Oh, we know.
Yes, I know. And 2 turnovers and a scoop and score and all that. So that's the thing he's been fighting all year, was how 2024 ended for him. He had the less than 50% completion percentage game against the Lions when they had a chance to win the division. And then the awful playoff game against the Rams. He's really had his problems with the Rams. They lost to the Rams in the regular season last year. I think he got tagged for a late safety in that game on a Thursday night. And so that's a matchup thing. Now,
I think if those 2 games don't happen or don't turn out the way that they did,
Right.
as he's a Viking yet. I believe that.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. And for people who say, well, they invested a first round pick in JJ McCarthy, we have seen in recent years, Josh Rosen with the Cardinals, Trey Lance with the 49ers. If you get a funny feeling after a year or a year and a half, teams are willing to eat that, eat the rookie contract. I mean, which is not all that bad. It's not like signing a guy to 5 years and $160 million, and then you have to figure out what to do with him. So,
Right.
But you see teams get off that quarterback pretty quickly. And as you know, we also now see quite a few quarterbacks in this league turn their careers around, maybe in their third or fourth or even fifth stop.
Now, when we talk about, keeping Sam clean and what happened in Minnesota, the Seahawks have really made a concerted effort over the last 3 years to draft their offensive line.
Yes, they have.
Who's starting. They didn't bring them in from other places. They went out and drafted them. Cross and Lucas were drafted in the same year, round 1 for Cross and Lucas in round 3. You saw what they did last year in bringing in Gray Zabel. So they've made a concerted effort to put the right pieces on the offensive line to help the pass and the run. And they've really kind of built that in the trenches, which we've seen that work for a couple different teams like the Bears, who have built in the trenches. Now the Vikings try to do that as well, but just have not had the success at the quarterback position or staying healthy on the offensive line. And with the running game that we have is establishing the run with Walker and Charbonnet. So Walker and Charbonnet, that tag team, I don't know if you want to call it like the Lions, Sonic and Knuckles, but establishing the run with those two individuals has been so key. The Seahawks, they rank as far as rushing goes. Yes, they're 21st, they're third in rushing. And on the other side of the ball, the Vikings rank 20th in the pass rush. So there's quite a bit of a difference in there to where rushing the ball with Kenneth Walker, I feel like if one's off, the other one's on. You don't know if it's going to be a Kenneth Walker game or a Zach Charbonnet type of game. So they go together so well. It seems like Zach Charbonnet is that short yardage or red zone type runner for them. And then, you see Kenneth Walker getting the bulk of the carries, but that sometimes differs depending on the game for the Seahawks and how it's going.
Yeah, Walker to me is the more elusive runner, and Charbonnet is kind of one of those ball peen hammer type of guys who will get you. That's not to say Walker doesn't get tough yards, but Charbonnet is definitely a different style, and you love to have combinations like that because that really keeps a defense off balance. One time you're chasing a guy, and the next time the guy's running you over, and we've seen a lot of successful combinations like that around the league. And again, that's a Clint Kubiak thing, putting emphasis. That was something he said from day one when he took the job in Seattle. Remember, he was in New Orleans last year as their offensive coordinator. And that hire, and he also brought, keep in mind, he also brought his offensive line coach from New Orleans to Seattle as well. So it's a very well-constructed team in terms of really having a game plan for the offseason. I think John Schneider is traditionally done very, very good job as a general manager. And but go back to Sam for a minute. What's interesting about Sam is, and you're talking about the Vikings pass rush and protecting him, some of these miscues he's had has had less to do with pressure, and he's had some odd turnovers. Like the week 1 where they were driving late in the game down by 4 to San Francisco. He backed up the pass. I think he pulled his arm back. He hit Abraham Lucas in the chest with the ball. The ball came out. Nick Bosa recovered. End of drive. When they had that wild game against the Seahawks, against the Buccaneers at home, tied 35-35. He throws an interception that went off someone's helmet. And the Bucs kick a field goal, and that was the end of that. 4 interceptions, you can't. There's nothing weird about that. He decided to spread the ball around to everybody who was in SoFi Stadium that day. So, and yet kept on pitching. So that's something to keep in mind. But can they protect him? I think obviously the best way to protect him is give Walker and Charbonneau a lot of carries and play action pass to the deep threats. Maybe this is the week we really see Shaheed as well.
Sure.
So, and deep. But this will be interesting. It's an interesting game because you've got a guy who came into this building last year as a member of the Vikings and beat the Seahawks. And now he's the home team and he's facing the same team. Let's not forget last year that Darnold won that game in Seattle late in the year, which turned out to be very pivotal for them.
Well, let's see what Sam Darnold had to say to reporters when he was interviewed earlier this week.
Obviously a really great challenge for us going up against Flo and his defense and all the different different problems that he can create for an offense. Obviously a great scheme, like I said, but also really, really good players. And their whole team, I know KO's got those guys rolling over there. So we're excited about it, excited for this challenge.
Can the amount you practiced against that defense help you think this week?
Yeah, I think just any experience that you have, against any defense can help you a ton. So, I'm just going to continue to study the way that I've been studying, understanding what they've been doing this year, and kind of go about it that way.
What's your year in Minnesota mean you in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful, for the time that I spent there, all the people that, I created relationships with, all the people in that locker room, all the coaches there, the people in that building. But I am very excited to be here and to continue doing what we're doing this year.
So that's what Sam had to say. I think he's grateful for the opportunity that he had with Minnesota. But, you have to ask the question, is this a revenge game versus the Vikings for Sam Darnold?
I would call it a revenge game if he was under contract and they cut him. And that wasn't the case. Okay, he signed a 1-year deal. He was cognizant of the fact that they drafted a quarterback in the first round. You alluded to the fact that if things had not happened at the end of the year the way they ended, he might have still be there, but he might not have also still been there as well. So I don't think this is necessarily a revenge game for him. I think, frankly, it's a chance for him to take an opportunity to play against a team he obviously knows better than any other team after spending a year there as well. And you can kind of tell the admiration he has for Brian Flores too. But he called him Flo. Okay. And let's be honest, that's what Sam's going to be looking for this week, a little flow against the Flores defense.
Well, Sam had, such a great season last year, and I think he was able to pick the brain of Brian Flores last year, and the relationship he had with Kevin O'Connell, and just the relationship he had with the teammates. I think that is something that he truly did cherish, and there's still a lot of those teammates that are still with that team.
Well, I think you could tell they embraced him. Okay, and I don't know how much of that took place with the Jets. I don't know how much of that took place with the Panthers. The 49ers situation was different there. It was almost like he was it's a bad analogy. He was almost like an exchange student. He was there for really to learn and get away from the other situations. I mean, you talk about the Jets have the longest playoff drought in the league. Okay, the Panthers haven't been in the playoffs since 2017. The 49ers, one of the best run organizations in the league. Vikings, I think Kevin O'Connell has established himself as a solid coach, and his work with quarterbacks, I think, is well regarded. So the last couple of years, Sam was able to put himself in situations, and then, of course, reuniting with Kubiak in Seattle. So that didn't really happen for him early in his career. Okay, and I'm not going to dump on the Jets and dump on Carolina, but the facts are the facts. Okay, I mean the Jets haven't played a playoff game since Mark Sanchez was the quarterback. Okay, the Panthers were in the playoffs in 2017. They haven't won a division title since they went to the Super Bowl in 2015. They're in the midst of like their longest stretch without a winning season. So now you come to other organizations who've had success. And I know Seattle hasn't been to the playoffs since 2022. Okay. But they've been competitive. Last year, the only team in the league, Steve, that won 10 games and didn't make the playoffs. So I think it was a good situation for them. But unfortunately for him, I'll just say this. Every time he has one of those 4 interception games, and it's the third one of his career, it ties the most he's ever thrown in a game, people are going to roll back to the end of 2024.
Yep. Nope. You're not wrong.
No.
You're not wrong. But he showed this year and last year that he can be a very good quarterback. I would say, he was, at least for a large part of the season until the end of the season, he was at least in the MVP conversation.
No question about it. Comeback player of the year conversation as well.
Okay? Probably deservedly should have been the comeback player of the year.
Well, if you can give it to Joe Flacco for less than half a season, you could give to Sam Darnold for 17 games.
That's right. So. That's right. And make, a 14-3 season.
Yes.
It's
hard. I'll say this. It's hard to win 14 games and not win a division.
Absolutely.
Okay. Which was no fault. I mean, you think about it. Last year, the Vikings only lost. That NFC North was wild, but it ended. I know you know this. It also ended poorly for all of them.
Right.
The Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers all were one and done in the playoffs.
And I think we beat ourselves up in those last couple of games against each other. And,
right.
I don't think we did ourselves any favors, for the Vikings coming in against the Rams. And, I don't think that helped the Lions either, to just go against each other, fighting for that number 1 seed at the end of the season.
Right.
I think you put it all on the line for that game and how much was left, for that playoff game.
Well, that was one of the great performances you'll ever see by a division, because even when they lost the few games that they did, they pretty much lost to the same teams. Right. Okay. I mean, now Detroit lost to, they lost to Buffalo. And they lost to everyone's escaping. They only lost 2 games. Minnesota lost to the Lions twice, and if you include the playoffs, the Rams twice. Green Bay lost to the Lions twice. They lost to the Vikings twice. They lost to the Eagles twice, right, including the playoffs, and then they lost to the Bears. So it was an interesting year, and I agree with you. Maybe by the end of the year, that race took its toll on all 3 of those teams. And maybe that's why they're all kind of, for lack of a better word, lollygagging this year. Minnesota's having a rough year. Detroit's 7-5 now and 1-3 in the division. They were 6-0 in the division last year. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think quarterback play has been in offensive line health has been a lot of.
Let's be honest, their defense, as healthy as it can be, is still. I mean, they made the New York Giants look like Phil Simms and the '86 Super Bowl champions a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so how often do you get a Jameis Winston touchdown pass and a Jameis Winston touchdown reception? Okay,
it was great to watch.
Right, yes.
Especially a Jameis Winston touchdown catch, where he actually maybe got close to making it on angry runs. I mean.
I always use the same bad pun when I talk about Jameis Winston. I'll date myself here. Jameis Winston should play good like a quarterback should. Do you remember the old Winston cigarette commercials? You were allowed to have a cigarette commercial on TV years and years ago.
Yeah, I can't say I remember a lot of the cigarette commercials, but
no, because they were banned for years and years. Yeah. They took them off the air, but every cigarette had a tagline, and it used to be Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Mm. Which I don't know how they came up with that, because the cigarette doesn't taste good to me. So,
well, a loss doesn't taste good to us as Vikings fans, but I think we're kind of nearing that area where I think we just have to come to terms with this isn't going to be a playoff year for the Minnesota Vikings. But we still want to make strides at becoming a better team. And one of those things for the rest of the season is going to be finding out what we have in JJ McCarthy, and also this week finding out what we have in Max Brosper.
There's no question about it. And listen, funny things happen. We've had 4 games this week already. 3 road teams have won. And if you want to get somebody on your show and find them to explain what happened to the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night at home against the Cincinnati, that was 5 turnovers. I think 3 by Lamar Jackson. It happens. It's not it's not inexplicable. And I think that's why this season so far has been one of the craziest and most unpredictable. I mean, it's your show, but I'll ask you a question.
Sure.
Who the hell is good this year?
Well,
consistently good.
I think you've had some of those head scratchers kind of all season. I think early on in the season, I think people thought the Eagles were going to be that team. And then they kind of fell down the rung a little bit, and then you had the Colts. And then now you got Daniel Jones with a fractured fibula right now. And, I think you want to say the Seahawks, but then you said you have a 4 interception type game where you can have those ups and downs. Everyone was high on the Bills, and then Josh Allen has had some questionable
back to his turnover problems.
We thought early in the season with getting Rashee Rice back, and hey, the Chiefs are going to be in it, but they look human as well.
Yeah, it could be. I know I'm off topic here. It could be a year like 2020 where a team gets hot at the end of the year and wins it all, which was Tampa Bay. Remember, they were 7-5 after 12 games, ran the table the rest of the year. So they weren't a great team that year. They got beat by the Saints twice, and then they beat the Saints in the playoffs. So it could be one of those years where we don't have a dominating team. And but even the Chiefs a couple of years ago, 2023, maybe they were 11-6. Okay, lost to the Raiders on Christmas at home late in the year, and then got their act together and pulled it out. So who knows?
I think I trust the top teams in the NFC more than I trust the top teams in the AFC.
Oh, I agree with that.
The Patriots sitting at the top there. Who have you beat? I don't know if I trust you in a primetime playoff matchup or to make it all the way through. The Colts. Do we see Daniel Jones on the IR? Does Anthony Richardson have to be the guy that leads them through the playoffs? I mean,
I have not given up hope. Not that I root, but in other words, look out for the Texans. I'm just telling you, look out for the Texans. And if history is any indicator,
who's quarterbacking that team, Russ? Is that Davis Mills or CJ Stroud, who's now healthy?
But here comes Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. around the corner again. And I'll just say this. It's only been 6 times in the history of the NFL that a team has gone from 0-3 to make the playoffs. The last team to do it were the 18 Houston Texans. They could become the first team to do it twice.
So, and I know this is a Vikings Central, but who's quarterbacking that team here now that CJ is healthy? Is there controversy?
I think you still got to put in Stroud. Okay, but Davis Mills was a guy who played for them.
Right.
To me, what's remarkable about what Houston is doing is that they lost Joe Mixon basically for the entire year, but so hard to score on them. Okay, top defense, giving up the fewest points in the league, and get literally no offensive support. They've lost some heartbreakers. Denver beat them at the wire. But the saving grace for them, and I'm not saying they're a great team, sometimes the schedule works out for you, not in terms of strength of schedule. I think that's so overrated. But they get 2 shots at the Colts. They haven't played the Colts yet.
Right.
Okay. So if you're chasing a team and you get 2 shots at them, not 1 shot, there you go. At least the opportunity is there. I referenced Detroit earlier in the show. Yeah. They're already 1-3 in the division, and they've got swept by the Packers. That is probably going to wind up costing them dearly in terms of repeating as NFC North champion.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's going to come down to tiebreakers,
Yes.
most likely with those teams. You got the weird tie that the Packers have as well, too, that's probably going to factor in versus the Bears. So all something to watch. But Russ, I do want to thank you so much for coming on today. Seriously, your knowledge and experience of writing over 40 years, that's incredible. You're living my dream. So I think that's awesome that you get to do this stuff every day and talk about NFL sports teams. So I just want to thank you for coming on again. And again, anyone that's looking to follow Russ on X, make sure that you go to @Bax Football Guru on X and go ahead and give him an ad. And do you want to give a shout out for NFL Spin Zone as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like I said, I write a couple weekly columns for them. The food for thought, the key stats. And again, the key stats thing is almost for lack of a better word, a tribute to the thing I used to do with Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick over at ESPN. I like doing things in fives. Okay. So, but it's fun. It's my chance to look at league-wide trends and certain numbers that really stand out. Like we're even in the food for thought. I mean, my first thing to write about was the two teams with the most turnovers in the league are the Vikings and the Seahawks. They're playing each other this week. What could happen?
Yeah. Well, these two teams, they're going to go at it. Most likely Seattle is they have more to play for this week, but it could get interesting with a Max Brosmer at quarterback, and you might see a little bit more passing than we have been, and maybe extended drives as well. So it'll be an interesting one. But thanks again, Russ. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we can do this again. You cover 4 different teams in the NFL, so we may see you again down the line.
It'd be my honor and be my pleasure. I really enjoyed this. This is my idea of doing a show. Just talking football. No yelling, no screaming, no hot takes.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you have an open invite from us to come on again. So thanks
I'll
again,
call
Russ.
you in 20 minutes.
Sounds good. All right. So that was my interview that I got to have with Russ Baxter, and he was a great guest to have on earlier today. And appreciate having Jason Harmon on earlier, as well as Josh, the Brohioan. I know this is a long, long show that we had for you, but we had a lot of information, a lot of analysis, and I want to say thank you to all of you that did tune in during different parts, whether you watched the whole thing or not. And yes, thanks to you too. Go Max tomorrow. We're all going to be watching to see if Max Brosmer can have some success sustaining drives, moving the ball for the offense. I wouldn't say it's necessarily about getting the win tomorrow. Obviously, we're not out of it yet if we sweep the table, but we want to see some success moving the ball on offense and see some growth there. Now, who knows? Maybe Max Brosmer really surprises us. We'll have to see. But again, for Viking Central, I want to say thank you so much for all of you guys that support us and what we do. Make sure that you're following us on X, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and then also go ahead and read our Substack as well too. So, and thanks to our sponsors, that's Badass Wood Art, SeatGeek, and Homage. And Skull Vikings, go get that W tomorrow, or at least, show us some growth on the offensive side of the ball. That's what we want to see. Is having some success and growing there. It's not necessarily about the win if we don't get it, but always going to be rooting for whoever's at quarterback, whether it's JJ, whether it's Max Brosmer, and hopefully you guys stay tuned with us the rest of the season. We'll stay locked in here on our end. Have a great night, and hopefully everyone had a happy Thanksgiving and have a great rest of the weekend.